morning, everybody. It's Kim from Patriot Garden, and I thought today maybe we could go over some ways you can get started with the garden if you never have and you want to. I'll show you all the different structures I have in the garden, and to maybe inspire you today that it's not too late. It is only the beginning of April here in Connecticut. Our last frost date is the end of May, and I have a lot of gardening friends that don't even get started till after Memorial Day. So if you haven't started a garden yet, it is not too late. I'm going to try to get you going today and maybe get you thinking on different ways you can start planting some food. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the like button and leave a comment or two. And thank you to all those people who are helping to get this channel off the ground. It's looking like gardening's becoming a very popular activity these days. I don't know if it started from the pandemic and people being in quarantine and needing something to do, or going into the grocery store and seeing empty shelves, but it seems like everybody wants to garden now. So we've been in this house for 20 years, and before that we lived sort of in a close to a city, and we had a very small piece of land, but we had a big garden when my kids were little. And when we moved here, life got very busy for me. I went to school, I was getting a degree, my kids were doing the whole kid activity thing, and we got pretty crazy around here. And then one day my son said to me, "Mom, can we start a garden again?" So we quite literally got 2 bags of compost, cut slits in the top, and put some tomato plants in there. My family made fun of us, my friends made fun of us, but we actually grew some tomatoes, so it wasn't bad. And then from there, we built a few raised beds and a few more raised beds, and then surrounded the raised beds with fences. And ever since then, the garden has grown and grown. So I'm going to show you everything we got going on around here, and maybe something will speak to you and get you feeling like you want to start. We have 6 raised beds, 2 with cold frames. There's our raised beds. And I added 2 container gardens on either side of the bed. Right here, we have that small patch over there. I'll show you what's growing in there. And then more container gardens over here. Built a small hoop house that I plan on expanding this year. It's got 2 in-ground beds. We've got 2 in-ground beds around the run to grow some things that will shade the run, give the girls something to snack on during the day, and just give me another place to grow some stuff. I'll share with you today our Ruth Stout gardens, and I'll kind of explain what they are and how you can get them started. This is not something you're going to be able to use this year, but if it gets you thinking, maybe this fall you will get started turning some grass very easily into a growing spot. Thing that you can get started this year, which is a container garden. Now I have a video which I'll link above that I did, very quick video on how to put drainage holes in these buckets and what to fill them with, the recipe for soil that goes inside. As you can see, I've lifted them up off the ground because having drainage holes is not going to do them any good if they're sitting on the ground and they can't drain well. Hoping to grow some nasturtium or some kind of flower that will just overflow those small pots and really bring some beauty to this bucket garden. And this is something anybody can do fairly quickly. I wouldn't put any seeds or starts in them now in 6B. It is cold here, but where you live, you might be able to start some seeds or even put some plants in. Now this is a simple in-ground garden that's been here for a long time. I think originally we threw flowers in here. I do have some hosta that will start popping up in front. As you can see, I've got some rhubarb and chives. This is kind of like an all-purpose garden. I generally put plant starts in here that I've run out of room for, and it's really rich soil. As you can see, it's very dark, and it's also very close to the house, so not being surrounded by a fence is really not a problem. We do get the occasional bunny, but I've never had a deer be brave enough to get this close. Now after our compost bag year, we started building beds. These 2 beds were the first ones that we built, and then as we extended it, we felt the need to surround it with a fence. Of course, 6 beds and 3 years later was not quite enough, so we ended up putting in some Ruth Stout gardens. Ruth Stout was a woman that was born in, like 1868, and by the 1950s she was writing gardening books, but her gardening books were like gardening without breaking your back, or gardening that's not a lot of hard work. And her philosophy was, if you just put some mulch down on grass, it'll just turn into a garden. And she was right. She used all kinds of organic matter. I've discovered that spent hay, and what I mean by spent hay is, you go to a farm and you get hay that has lain in their gardens or has been previous mulch. Sometimes they'll sell spoiled hay very cheap. Sometimes you can get it free. But a Ruth Stout garden is not something you're going to be able to start this year and plant in. It's going to be something that you'll have to plan for next year. But it really is great, as you can see behind me, for taking grass and turning it into a garden plot. All right, so I have a Ruth Stout circle. The Ruth Stout row on the right is about 3 years old. The one on the left is brand new. Part of this is the hay breaking down, and part of this has been my dumping ground, and I dump whatever I have left over in here. But I want you to see what's going on underneath here. It's absolutely beautiful soil, very black. Now we're going to take a look at this. I'm going to find a good spot to lift up the hay and see what's underneath. I haven't even done this yet, so let's take a look at it. The grass is completely gone. It has completely broken down the grass. Now the soil is not as enriched as the other bed. In fact, you really have to work hard to dig down. So that's not going to be some place where I'm going to be able to plant easily. But if I mound that with some compost, it's going to be a great place to start my raspberries. So this is coming along. If at the very least all it did was take the grass out, now I can put amended soil in there and create a beautiful in-ground garden. Now the girls love scratching around this time of year, especially in these new gardens, because they find all kinds of goodies. Jackpot. Who's going to have that one? There you go. Oh, that was my finger. So what I want to do now is kind of show you what we've got growing around here. I'm in my little hoop house. You can see why I need to expand it this year, kind of sinking down a little bit. So I'm going to push out another few feet and I'm going to make it taller. I'll take you along when I build that. But let's see what's growing in here. So you'll remember my video on water jug sowing. I've got some great lettuce going on in there. And they're only hung from the top because I need space. I think this is cilantro. And I'm kind of glad it got cool again today because cilantro really likes it to be cool. And some parsley. I got parsley growing. I'm going to leave them in here while it's cool. Today really surprised us with the cool temperatures. All right, on the right here, I've got some spinach, and on the left, I've got some raw red Russian kale. That is the only spinach that survived the chicken attack. They came in and ate the rest of it, but that plant is probably going to be part of dinner tonight, so that's good. I also have my garlic coming along. I'm not too sure about the garlic. It might get too warm in here, so I'll let it go as long as I can, and then we'll see. If I have to harvest it, I have to harvest it, but I'd like to see if I can keep that going till late May or early June. That actually has been in the ground in the hoop house since November. Now my raspberries were gifted to me, and they are starting to come to life. All right, in our raised bed gardens, we put some seed tapes a couple of weeks ago. You might remember that video. I'll link it above if you want to know how to make your own seed tapes. You can do that. I did it with carrots. You can do it with any vegetable, really. But carrots are really perfect for direct sowing. You don't really want to transplant those. They have very tender roots and they'll get damaged easily, so planting them in the garden directly is better. So I have a couple of rows of seed tape. I did a couple of direct sow of seeds, and if I can get close enough, you can see that things are starting. You'll see a little green here and there. Things are starting to sprout. Then I have some beets on this side. The ones that you can see are the ones I did in the soil blocks. I'm not quite sure how they're going to work out. I wasn't crazy about soil blocks for beets. I thought that it worked way better for spinach. But I have both soil block beets, and in between I have some seeds growing, and the seeds have not sprouted yet. And then I'm trying some rutabagas. So this bed will be all the root vegetables: carrots, beets, rutabagas, and then at the very end I'm going to put some spaghetti squash that will grow up on a trellis that I haven't made yet. We're getting there. We've got radishes sprouting. We have some cool temperatures today, and I think for the rest of the week, rainy and cool temperatures, but radishes should do just fine. My cool crop bed right here with some old stuff that overwintered and some new stuff that's coming up. So right here we have lettuces that obviously I planted in ground. You can see how thickly I plant the lettuce because I do that cut and come again method. where I just trim off some lettuce for a meal and let it continue to grow. I don't grow heads of lettuce. I really don't have space for that. This is the spinach that I did in the soil blocks, and I think this is the way I'm going to do it every year. Soil blocks, and then put the soil blocks in the garden. Seems to be working out well. This is last year's red Russian kale. You cannot kill this stuff, and it is so delicious. In fact, even overwintered, it's still delicious, and it doesn't show signs that it's going to bolt. So that's really good. I'm going to leave this in the garden. And those 2 rows of lettuce were overwintered, as well as this row. And they came back beautifully, and we ate some the other night. It was really delicious. Now you can see that this variety in the mix has already gone to bolt. But I'm going to leave it because these flowers will give me next year's seeds. And then some bok choy is growing. An overwintered chard, which I think is going to go. We're going to harvest it, eat it, and plant something in its place. And there's some new chard coming up here. This bed has a cold frame, and I've been putting the cold frames down every night because it's been getting kind of chilly around here. The last thing I want to show you is this comfrey plant. Now, comfrey is a great medicinal plant. It's also very high in protein. I occasionally feed some to the chickens, but it will take over a bed. I've kind of kept it to that corner by just yanking out parts of it that I don't want to encroach on the rest of the bed. I may even consider moving that to our new tea garden, which will be over there, which I have not planted yet. That's still to come. You'd also see that I have some trellises going on. I have plans to put in 2 more trellises this year. So I'm growing in the ground, in raised beds, in containers, and vertically. But what I love is that every step that I take helps me to become a little bit more self-sustainable, learning new skills, and having a little bit more food security, which is really important. So I hope you all have a great day today. It's really starting to rain, so I'm going to go inside. Happy gardening, everybody.